My name is Dwayne Irvin, and I was supposed to be an upcoming freshman at Howard University, but unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. Today, and many other students as well, received an email informing them that they had been dropped from their class roster because we had unpaid balances. And shame on Howard. This is not a fair process, and it was not done correctly whatsoever. I still have pending scholarships. People that I spoke to today, various classmates told me that they were still waiting for military benefits. They were still waiting for loans. And we were dropped 13 days until we were supposed to move in on campus. Who does that? How could you do that? But I learned something today. I was informed that Howard over-admitted students. And this was their way of getting rid of some of those students. So because their failure, students have to pay the price. That is not the Howard I believed in. That is not the Howard I believed I was going to. This is not the school that I thought would do this to me.
Right, I'm going to stop. Before we head to the gym, first let's crank out a video. All right, folks, I know this is the Gen Z, the very, very young Gen Z crowd, because in a few years we're going to have Gen Alpha going into college. So this is still the Gen Z crowd. I'm going to do this as delicately as possible, okay, without sounding like an old Gen X. The real world is basically just come and face planted a whole bunch of you, because I know he's not the only student from Howard that has made this type of video. There are actually several videos, but there are a few things to touch on. In the real world, if deadlines are not met, it is not going to matter what the extenuating circumstances are. The deadline was missed. The opportunity is gone. I understand he says this is not, quote, this is not the Howard that, basically he dreamt of, his Howard. In other words, students, some of you guys get a real grandiose idea of how the school feels personally about you. It is not about you. It's about business. A school overbooking students, meaning a school, what he was pointing out, to admitting more students than they know they probably have capability for, is no different than a restaurant or an airline or anybody else over admitting people. We know there are not enough seats on the aircraft, and we know we're going to have to boot somebody off. But we also know that people are going to miss their flight, intentionally not take a flight because they're trying to finagle the travel dollars as much as they can. I'm not going to get into that. It's irrelevant. But just in other words, lots of businesses intentionally overbook because they know there's going to be a certain percentage that will miss the boat and its opportunity. It is really important that you understand that as a college student, you are a number. You are a federal paycheck for student loan debt. You are a paycheck for that private Sally Mae. And really quickly, it's not easy to go bankrupt on private student loans. So if those of you are thinking I'm just going to transfer my, federal student loans, I'm just going to transfer my private student loans, whatever, to credit cards, and then I'll just go bankrupt. Not as easy to do. Okay, I've read that a few times this past week. So those of you, you're going to be rounding up that student loan debt and stuff, okay? Just like the federal government views you, just like Sally Mae views you, you are a mathematical number on a spreadsheet that the spreadsheet people love to look at. Hey, that's what you are. You are a dollar bill. They don't sit and think, oh my goodness, this is, let's use me. This is Carrie. Carrie has always dreamt of going to this school. We can't break her heart. We are 13 days to school start. What are we going to tell her? See, you guys unfortunately seem to think And rightfully so, because probably no one's told you. Some of you have had too many apps that deliver everything you want in 24 hours or less. So I understanding that this is a hard ship, a hard lesson to learn. Okay. They are not looking at you in the individual way that you are looking at them. So when you sit there and you say something like, quote, how can the school do this to us? Well, the same way they can tell you that your student loan is 3 times what your take home income is, and that if you don't pay it, they're going to garnish your wages. The same way they can tell you that, I'm sorry, you are being kicked out of the school because your payment is late. You see, the same way they can tell you that you need to take this, and this class before you graduate. The only problem is they dropped 1 or 2 of the classes and they haven't got a class to make it up. The same way they can take all your tuition money and then the school closes and you have to finish somewhere else. The same way they can take all your tuition money, give you a freaking degree, and then you find out the school is not accredited appropriately and is defunct. The same way they can tell you that if you work so many years that you can get public service loan forgiveness, and then go, oops, that was wrong. We're not going to give it to you. That is how they can do it. You got to look at it as a business and stop looking at it in the personal sense. It will get you every single time. And that's to every student. And the other thing, I'm just saying to be really careful about this, okay? Don't start your young career. Haven't even started working yet. This is just my suggestion. Be careful of what you say on social media. You are not established in the workplace. You do not want to come off on social media as a complainer, a griper, too much of an activist or anything else, especially when older people are going to look at you. Okay. The ones right now, they're going to do the hiring and they're going to think you can't take accountability. Look, I'm not trying to say that he doesn't have a valid point. I'm not saying I wouldn't be upset. It's just as a Gen X, I'm just trying to tell some of you younger people, you like to come on social media. You like to vet everything that is possibly wrong, whether it was partly your fault or not. That is not always what employers are going to be looking at. They're going to be looking at how do you handle challenges? How do you respond to things? And I understand the money didn't come through. I get it. I really do. All right. And I get that money not coming through had nothing to do with you. I get that too. But you got to be really, really careful about coming on social media and over complaining. And you haven't even got your first job yet. You are not yet established. You don't want people thinking incorrect thoughts about how you handle stress, accountability, and all of that. I'm just saying. All right, moving on.
And now I'm sitting here with no options whatsoever. I'm officially dropped.
I did see the news report. They are going to refund you any money that you've paid, and you are allowed to re-enroll in the fall. I saw that on a news report.
I'm speaking out because I'm going to bring awareness to this. This was done unfair, and someone, I don't care who it is, need to make up for it.
And this is what I'm just saying. You got to be careful about what you're putting out on social media. Don't sound too angry, even though you may be furious. It's image. You want the appropriate image as you get into your working career. All right. I'm saying this with a lot of love. I really am. I get it.
Right now. What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do?
Start working, reapply in the fall.
I spent so much money on Howard. So much money.
I just got fired from a job.
Ah, God, another idiot who's fired for a TikTok.
Take those social media policies seriously. It's so funny because I had just seen something on this app the other day. But it's just crazy when you're like taken advantage of, and when there were certain things that you could have went to HR about when you should have and you didn't, because you just had empathy for everybody. It's just so crazy to me how a job can truly affect your mental health. And this was a blessing in disguise. Honestly, people who have reached out to me already today have said that. I was unhappy. Boom. Let's just point out the obvious.
No. Let's point out the obvious. You screwed up. You made a freaking TikTok at work. So help me. I have no pity. Okay. From this day on, from probably half a year ago, I have no pity for people getting fired, making freaking TikToks at work. And don't do something stupid, lady, like make your TikTok at work and then say, oh, but I never told another people when they did it playing the victim. And then going, but this job was so bad. This was a blessing in disguise. It is not a blessing in disguise when you do something voluntarily, you get canned for it because you're not supposed to be making TikToks at work. Okay. That is not a blessing in disguise. That is the consequences of your stupidity playing? But you see, it's easier to say it's a blessing in disguise. Why? Because it keeps you from having to be fully accountable. And clearly, if you were making a TikTok at work and your TikTok was probably happy and all of that, I guess the job wasn't that bad, right? I'm telling you, I am over it.
Whoever was stalking me on this app, good for you. I hope you're happy with that, because that's so crazy to me.
No. She just said, fam, it was a blessing in disguise. Remember that, right? So this was supposed to happen. So why are you looking so depressed?
Yeah. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy, and I'm at a loss for words. These tears are not for them. This is more so just for me to look back on, to be like, there's bigger and better coming. Don't let this past company be a representation of who you really are, because I know at the end of the day, that's not who I am.
Let's take a look at some viewer comments from yesterday's upload. The broke and entitled complain to anyone who will listen. This is from Little Aussie. I work on our family farm, so does my husband. I get $34.90 per hour and I pay taxes. For as long as I can remember, my dad would hand me my wages, but only a half of the wages, and he would take the other half and save it. When I turned 21 years old, I had enough saved up to build a house on the family farm. This is from Denise Harris, 2982. He literally makes 50,000 more than we make, living over budget, exclamation marks. We don't have credit cards debt free in our 60s. Braun Benson, 552. Where is his missing spouse's income? If she's not working, why is he paying $1,000 a month in childcare? That is an excellent thought. I didn't think about that. Father gross is $115,000. He's got $1,000 a month of childcare. This is from Padali. That gal with the MBA, nobody but you cares you had a 4.0. Your attitude is obnoxious and does not give team player. Why not start your own consulting or outsource health admin business? DK Flower 79. You can't fix stupid. These folks only think of today and not tomorrow. Unfortunately, that's a new mindset and thinking for most Gen Zers. The only part I'm going to say is I was a broke ass, as you know, in the 80s and 90s. So in my 20s and 30s, I was super broke. I was as broke as the Gen Zers are today in spending money foolishly and carelessly. But I think not all Gen Zers, but I think at least the ones that we see on TikTok, one of the problems is how hard they're willing to take accountability and push their way through and not become beggars on TikTok.